Hi, and welcome back to Jody Drawn Out Interactive Coloring Calendars. Well, as you can see today, we don't have a coloring calendar because we finished a week early in our February calendars for Ants, and Interactive 2020 calendar. So today I'm going back to a painting that I started a long time ago. This is all acrylic paints, and the leaves are textured. So I textured them and I chattered them with a trowel, and then I put silver leaf, and then I added some colors over that. Anyway, and I think I might want to add some more rocks, and I'm considering, I need a third koi fish here, so I think I'm going to do a yellow koi fish coming out of a deep hole here. So, and then I need some vines coming off of my leaves. I need a few things yet to get finished, and that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to talk about acrylics. And I'm going to talk about a few of the different acrylics that I use, that are sitting on the table here. I use golden in the tube. This has a nice high opacity. I use Liquitex, which has a little bit more of a sheer base, which means you can see through a little bit more. Higher opacity means you can't see through it at all. Sometimes we use that for blocking out an area so that we can add maybe a flower over a dark background. I'm going to use white possibly to block it out, and then paint my pale yellows or pinks or soft colors over that, because trying to build that on black can be really, really difficult. So this is some ink-based synthetic paints from Fofex, and they're very sheer. They're like more like a tea stain, or great for furniture finishes, and I like to paint with them, and I used a lot of them on here because I wanted to create the feeling of water, so I wanted multiple layers and lots of different colors kind of coming through. I also have these Liquitex Basics in a tube, which have a little bit higher of an opacity, and lots of fun colors that I really love. I love this color. So anyway, we'll be talking about those a little bit more. These are interference colors. These are really fun. I have blue, green, and violet. So if you look at, let's do this. If you're buying paint in a tube, and I know golden for sure, I think a couple of the other ones do this as well, but so if you look at the three lines on here, this one is very difficult to see. This one you can see much better as this one. And this one is just an iridescence. So if you can see the bars, then the paint that's in the tube is sheer. So this one would have the highest opacity, so you can't see those bars quite as well as the other ones. So I think I have this one being cobalt blue. You really can't see those bars. So that would be the indicator of the sheerness of the paint. So when you purchase it, you know what you're getting. Because sometimes you're like, wow, I can't get this to cover. It says right on here, heavy body. This is from Liquitex. And you really can't see anything from that. There's no bars on this particular tube, but this is like very, very, it's got a lot of titanium in it. Anyway, we're gonna work on this today because I need to get this done for a place for it to hang. So to its new home. Anyway, we're going to work on that because we don't have any more coloring calendar for February. We finished up early, so we could do other projects and do some other fun things. Now Thursday we'll be working with watercolor, but today we're going to work with acrylic. So I'm going to go ahead and finish getting set up, and we're going to get rocking and rolling here. So I talked about adding another fish over here, coming out of this little cave-like hole. And so to get an idea of how big I want my fish, I'm going to use my pencil first, but I'm going to use a charcoal white pencil. You scared me. I was scared. So here's where I want to add a fish coming out of this hole down here, and it will create another nice level of depth. So first of all, I'm going to use a white charcoal pencil, because that'll show up on this dark blue. And it erases. So I'll be able to draw that out. Secondly, I can use this pencil to gauge how big I want that fish to be. So I want him to look like he's further away than these two, so I'm going to create the illusion of him being further away by making him smaller. And I want to see how big these guys are, so I can use my pencil as a gauge. I can use any pencil as a gauge, just to give me an idea of how big I want him to be. So this fish, from the tip of his nose to his tailbone, I guess you would call it, is the length of the pencil. So I would probably make this whole fish about the size of this pencil, and probably tuck the end of his tail in the hole to make it appear like he's coming out. Or maybe even half. I'm thinking maybe this much of the fish will be sticking out of the hole. And he's got to be much narrower because I don't want him to be the same size, because then he's going to look like he's the same level as these two. So he has to be narrower than this amount. So he's got to be skinnier. So something like that. And from the tip of his nose to his tailbone. So it's going to be something around this size. And then his little side fins can come out here. His eyes. So. The paint, and I was just thinking about how I would rather this fish be a little bit smaller, because I can make it bigger if it's too small, but it's going to be a lot harder to make it smaller if it's too big. It's not that it can't be done, but the blues that I use on here are sheer, so it would be very involved. I would have to use a paint that has a higher opacity and block it out, and then it's not something that I would cherish. So as much as I love these colors here, I feel like it needs a little more weight at the bottom here with more rocks. So I'm going to add some rocks. I got these from my very best friend, Santa Fe Art Supply. And she got them for me for Christmas. Thank you, Beth. They're wonderful brushes. I use them all the time. So I have, I want to block in some more rocks here, and I'm not really that worried about the colors right now because I like to build layers for depth and a realistic appearance, because these are acrylics, but you're not going to get a rock to look like a rock in one layer. I can't do it anyway. So I'm using a little mixture of raw sienna, yellow ochre, and cerulean blue by Golden, and then this color is the aqua green from Liquitex. So that's what I'm using for my rocks. And again, my rocks on the top are going to be lighter than the ones that go a little bit further down. Sometimes we find a part of our painting that we really like, and it's like, oh, I don't want to cover that up. But in the same respect, you know, this painting is it's not finished, and I want to finish it, so I have to continue on and take that chance of finding things about it that I may or may not like as well as I did before I started. But it will get done. I'll show you this guy, another that I did not finish. But you can see what I'm talking about adding as many rocks as you want, because these obviously look like they're further down into the water coming up. I really like the watery look of it, but I really love the rocks. So that could be a problem for me, because the rocks do take a considerable amount of time to do, but they're really effective. So I can see where I'm going to possibly continue on my crazy with more rocks. And then just keep a little bit of this, because I don't think it needs a whole lot of that. I think the rocks are really fabulous, but that's me, and I love rocks. And trees and nature, I can't help it. It's just who I am. I like working with a dirty brush and going back and figuring out all the shapes or the things that I want it to look like, or comment, take out of it or put back in or whatever. So we're just gonna add some more, and from there I will start to enhance it. So as it starts to dry. I want to add a little bit more deeper tones over here, because now I don't mind having different rocks, but these are completely different than what I have going over here. Now sometimes I'll use this Valspar clear mixing glaze. You can get this at Lowe's. I also use Faux Effects. It's called So Slow. It's a super extender. So it doesn't really alter the color very much. That's why I like to use this one. So it's clear, and it keeps the paint open a little longer, more like an oil paint sort of. And it gives you the ability to add layers. So if I use a solid color and then I put a solid color over the solid color, I'm just going to continue to make a new color. If I use sheer colors, I'm going to see through those sheer colors and create depths of colors. So that's the difference between a sheer color and a color that's dense or has a lot of opacity to it. So I'm just gonna paint for a little bit, because we're gonna run out of time on this video, and I am not done with this painting. So looks like we may be working on this again at some point, and we'll just go quickly, go very fast. This is a this is an Italian Sienna from Faux Effects, and it's much more sheer. Let me show you this up closely. So you can see that it will run on the plate, and these will not. These just kind of hold their shape. So this is sheer, and this has much more density to it. Okay? All right, I gotta get moving here, or we're gonna run out of time, so bear with me. strip liner. It's a long hair, very skinny. And I use it for marbling and for doing veins. And I like to use a more lucid white paint. Or maybe even tone it down a little bit with some sienna. And then I just hold it, I kind of roll it, pull it. Very gently. Now, the funny thing with white is that once it's dry, it kind of dulls out. So you always think, wow, it's really, really bright. And then after a little while, after it's dry, it's kind of dull. And you're like, oh, now I gotta do it again. So you gotta play with it. So yeah, we are gonna run out of time, and I am adding a bunch more rocks. You knew I was going to, so we're not gonna finish today, but we will another day. So until then, have a great day. Please subscribe, and we'll see you soon.